In 1990, after 27 grueling years behind bars, Nelson Mandela walks out of Victor Verster prison as a free man, stepping directly into a South Africa standing precariously on the brink of catastrophic civil war. Decades of brutal apartheid policies have torn the nation apart. Violent clashes rage across townships between political factions, while deep-seated fear and racial hatred divide the white minority and the black majority. Addressing an angry crowd of 100,000 young ANC supporters in Durban, Mandela urges them to throw their weapons into the sea. For years later, history turns a monumental page as millions of citizens line up for hours to cast their votes in the country's first fully democratic election. Taking the oath of office as president, Mandela vows that this beautiful land will never again experience the oppression of one person by another. On his very first morning in office at the Union Buildings in Pretoria, Mandela's chief of staff, Brenda Mazibuko, tries to guide him through cabinet appointments, but Mandela notices empty desks and employees frantically packing up boxes. Expecting the new black administration to retaliate, fire them, and strip their livelihoods, the predominantly white civil servants prepare for the worst. Instead of seeking revenge, Mandela orders an immediate assembly. Stepping past his armed guards, he addresses the nervous crowd directly with warmth and humility, making a profound promise: no one will be terminated based on their skin color, language, or past political ties. He asks them to stay and help build a new South Africa, declaring that the past is the past and establishing reconciliation as the defining pillar of his presidency. That commitment to unity is immediately put to the test within his own personal security detail. When lead presidential bodyguard Jason Shabalala arrives at his office, he is shocked to find 4 white special branch officers assigned to work alongside his team. Led by Captain Fader, these are the exact men who previously protected former President F.W. de Klerk and who actively hunted, tortured, and killed ANC members during apartheid. Furious, Jason confronts Mandela, insisting that these officers cannot be trusted. But Mandela stands firm. He explains that if they want a true rainbow nation, reconciliation and forgiveness must start right here in his own office, telling Jason that forgiveness is a powerful weapon that liberates the soul. To understand the sports culture of the country he now leads, Mandela attends a high-stakes rugby match at Loftus Versfeld Stadium between the national team, the Springboks, and England. His security detail panics over exposing him to thousands of hostile white fans who hate him, but Mandela insists on walking out to the pitch to personally shake every player's hand. The atmosphere in the stadium visually highlights South Africa's deep racial divide. The white spectators enthusiastically wave old apartheid-era flags and cheer for the Springboks, while black fans cheer wildly for England, viewing the green and gold jersey as a hated symbol of oppression. The Springboks suffer a humiliating 24-9 defeat, leaving the nation's pride shattered and sparking intense public debate over the future of the team. Following their devastating loss to England, the Springboks face widespread backlash across the nation. Sports commentators scathingly denounce François Pienaar's squad as arrogant and unprepared, calling them whipped mongrels who play without discipline or courage. Capitalizing on the public outrage, the National Sports Executive holds an emergency meeting, where black political leaders vote unanimously to eliminate the Springbok name, green and gold colors, and emblem, replacing them with the Protea emblem. To the executive committee, stripping away the Springbok is a long overdue victory against a symbol of apartheid oppression. When President Mandela learns of the vote, he immediately prepares to intervene. His chief advisor, Brenda, and cabinet ministers strongly warn him against interfering, arguing that he is risking his political capital and alienating his own party over a game. But Mandela firmly replies that the day he is afraid to risk his political future is the day he is no longer fit to lead. Rushing directly to the executive meeting, he interrupts the assembly. Addressing the hostile crowd, Mandela delivers a passionate plea for restraint and generosity. He explains that during his 27 years in prison, he studied Afrikaner language and poetry to understand his enemy. He cautions that taking away what the white minority cherishes will only reinforce their fear and destroy any chance of national peace, urging them to build the country using every brick available even if wrapped in green and gold. Through his sheer moral authority, Mandela sways the executive vote by a razor-thin margin of just 12 votes. When advisors question why he is placating a minority, Mandela pragmatically points out that this minority still controls the police, the military, and the economy. Meanwhile, Springbok captain François Pienaar gathers his deflated team. Realizing their terrible performance has brought shame to the country, he hands out cold beers, forcing everyone to drink a toast to the taste of defeat and swear never to taste it again. Soon after, François receives an astonishing phone call inviting him to private afternoon tea with President Mandela. At home, his family reacts with skepticism, with his father cynically warning him to count his fingers after shaking Mandela's hand. Arriving at the Union Buildings, François is guided into the president's office. office. He is deeply struck by Mandela's warm hospitality when the president personally pours tea and asks about his injured ankle, reflecting that in sports as in life, one rarely plays at 100%. Over tea, Mandela inquires about François's philosophy on leadership. François explains that he leads by example, prompting Mandela to ask a deeper question: how does a leader inspire people to exceed their own expectations when nothing less will do? Mandela shares how a Victorian poem sustained him on Robben Island when he wanted to give up, and recalls how hearing Nkosi Sikelel Africa at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics made him proud to be South African. By the time François leaves, he realizes that the president isn't just asking them to play rugby, he expects them to win the upcoming World Cup to unite a broken nation. Mandela's political decision to back the Springboks creates immediate friction at home. His daughter, Zinzi, confronts him, expressing her deep discomfort with seeing her father embrace a team that represents the very police officers who terrorized their family while Mandela was in prison. Mandela gently corrects her, warning that letting personal bitterness dictate actions only serves selfish anger rather than the national interest. As the 1995 Rugby World Cup approaches, experts write off South Africa's chances, predicting they will progress no further than the quarter-finals. Unfazed, Mandela pushes the head of South African rugby to expand the team's responsibilities. Suddenly, the reluctant Springbok players are instructed to travel to impoverished townships across the country to conduct rugby coaching clinics for black children. Initially, players like Chester Williams and the rest of the squad view the township visits as a distracting promotional stunt that adds to their heavy training workload. However, the moment they step off the bus into the dust and poverty of the townships, everything changes. Thousands of young black children welcome them with pure joy and enthusiasm. Captain François Pienaar steps up to lead by example, running drills and teaching the kids the basics of the game. The powerful images of elite white players bonding with black township youth broadcast across national television, shifting public perception. Seeing the immediate impact on the kids, François confronts his cynical teammates. He tells them in no uncertain terms that times have changed, and, with only 1 week left before the tournament opener, President Mandela takes his commitment to the Springboks a step further. He spends his late nights memorizing every single player's face, name, and position, using the same intense focus he applied during his university law studies. Meanwhile, François Pienaar hands out sheets of paper to his teammates at a mandatory evening team meeting. The paper contains the words to Nkosi Sikelel Africa, the black anti-apartheid anthem that is now one of the country's co-national anthems. Several players react with anger and hesitation, calling it a terrorist song. François makes it optional, but firmly explains that mumbling through the anthem is no longer enough. They must learn to understand and respect the culture of the people they are representing. The day before the opening match against world power Australia, President Mandela makes a surprise visit to the Springboks practice field. Walking down the line, he personally greets every player by name, stunning the squad with his knowledge and genuine warmth. Discovering that star winger Chester Williams is sidelined with a severe hamstring injury, Mandela offers heartfelt encouragement to the squad before presenting François with a special gift, a copy of Invictus, the Victorian poem by William Ernest Henley that sustained him through his darkest years in prison. The next day, President Mandela attends the opening match at Cape Town's Newland Stadium, cheering in the stands alongside an ecstatic crowd as the Springboks pull off a dramatic 27-18 upset against defending champions Australia. Following this landmark victory, François takes the entire squad on a quiet, emotional trip to Robben Island to give them a deeper understanding of the nation's history. Standing inside Mandela's tiny, cramped prison cell, the players are struck by profound silence. François looks out through the rusted iron bars, marveling at how a man could spend nearly 3 decades trapped in such conditions and emerge with a heart filled with forgiveness rather than vengeance. Invigorated by their profound experience inside Mandela's Robben Island cell, the Springboks march into the knockout stages with a renewed, uncompromising sense of purpose. However, back in Pretoria, the immense physical and mental toll of running a fragile nation while keeping up with the high-stakes tournament finally catches up with President Mandela. During his regular early morning walk, his bodyguards panic as the elderly leader suddenly collapses onto the grass from severe physical exhaustion. His personal physician immediately steps in and demands a strict medical lockdown: no phone calls, no meetings, no visitors, and complete bed rest. But Mandela obstinately refuses to step back. He forces his staff to keep his schedule open, declaring that nothing will stop him from watching his team fight for the nation's soul. Meanwhile, on the pitch, the Springboks continue their miraculous, high-octane high-octane campaign. The quarterfinal against Samoa marks the dramatic return of star winger Chester Williams, who has finally recovered from his hamstring injury. The crowd erupts as Chester puts on an electrifying masterclass, slicing through Samoa's heavy defensive lines to score for spectacular tries. Driven by high-velocity passing, relentless tackling, and Chester's brilliant comeback, South Africa crushes Samoa 42-14, charging straight into the World Cup semi-finals. The semi-final at Kings Park Stadium in Durban brings a terrifying new obstacle: torrential rain. The sky opens up, flooding the pitch and turning the field into a treacherous. The game is finally cleared to play. What follows is a brutal, exhausting, blood and mud battle against a powerful French side. Every tackle drops players deep into thick mud, the wet ball turns slippery, leading to dangerous turnovers and bone-crunching scrums. France strikes hard, but the Springbok forward pack digs in, sealing a heroic, mud-soaked victory for South Africa. Watching the broadcast in complete awe, President Mandela immediately turns to his team, making sure his calendar is completely clear for the upcoming grand finale. Against all expert predictions and historical odds, the underdog Springboks have punched their ticket to the World Cup final, where they must now face their ultimate test, the unstoppable, legendary New Zealand All Blacks. In the quiet days leading up to the final, President Mandela and his advisors gather in his office to review the threat posed by the New Zealand All Blacks. They study footage of New Zealand's terrifying semi-final destruction of England, where 20-year-old superstar Jonah Lomu ran completely rampant, trampling defenders and scoring for unanswerable tries. The All Blacks have shattered international scoring records throughout the tournament, averaging over 40 points a game. Mandela's team warns him that New Zealand is favoured 2-1, and that half their matches are effectively won before the first whistle due to the intimidating psychological impact of the haka, their traditional Maori war dance. Despite the grim expert predictions, Mandela remains resolute. He tells his team that the country is hungry for greatness, and that exceeding expectations is no longer optional. Back in the Springbok camp, François Pienaar and his squad dissect hours of tape on Jonah Lomu. Standing 6'5" and weighing 120 kilograms, Lomu is a rare force of nature. François makes a solemn vow with his players: no matter who is on defense, every single man must hurl their body at Lomu, hit him low, and hold on until help arrives, even if it means breaking an arm or a leg. On the eve of the match, security tensions reach a breaking point. Jason Shabalala and Captain Fader coordinate massive tactical operations across Johannesburg. Sharpshooters are stationed on rooftops surrounding Ellis Park Stadium, sniffer dogs sweep the perimeter, and armed forces stand on high alert. Both security teams know that in a country still deeply fractured by racial hatred, all it takes is one radical gunman to plunge the nation back into chaos. On the morning of the match, an electric atmosphere grips Ellis Park. Over 62,000 fans pack the stadium, waving the vibrant new South African flag. Minutes before kickoff, a low roar echoes overhead as a massive Boeing 747 commercial airliner sweeps dangerously low over the stadium. Security agents panic, suspecting an airborne attack, but as the plane passes, the crowd erupts in cheers. Painted across the underside of the massive jet's wings are the words, "Good luck, boat." Inside the stadium, President Mandela walks onto the grass wearing a green Springbok jersey with François Pienaar's number 6 on the back, sending a powerful wave of shock, pride, and hope through the entire nation. Standing on the field at Ellis Park, the Springboks line up side by side to face the formidable New Zealand All Blacks. As the crowd holds its breath, the All Blacks perform the haka, their intense Maori war dance, staring down the South African squad with fierce, intimidating aggression. But François Pienaar and his teammates stand shoulder to shoulder, unwavering and united, refusing to back down from the challenge. The match kicks off with explosive intensity. New Zealand immediately launches its world-class attacking engine, searching for any gap in the defensive line. Early in the first half, New Zealand fly-half Andrew Merton strikes first, slotting a smooth penalty kick through the posts to give the All Blacks a 3-0 lead. South Africa answers almost instantly as Joel Stransky converts a penalty of his own, leveling the score at 3-3. The kick-for-kick duel continues as Mertens puts New Zealand ahead 6-3, but Stransky responds once again with high-pressure precision, tying the game at 6-6. Throughout the grueling first 80 minutes, the Springbok defense executes their game plan against Jonah Lomu with brutal discipline. Every time the massive winger touches the ball, scrum half Joost van der Westhuizen and François Pienaar hurl themselves low at his legs, chopping him down before he can build full momentum. Whenever Lomu breaks one tackle, two more green jerseys immediately swarm in to drag him down. As the clock ticks down in regulation time, Stransky kicks another clutch penalty to put South Africa ahead 9-6, but Mertens answers with a precise kick to bring the score back to a tense 9-9 tie. With both teams exhausted, beaten, and bruised, the referee blows the whistle to end 80 minutes of regulation play. For the first time in World Cup history, The final will be decided in 20 minutes of grueling extra time. As extra time begins, the atmosphere inside Ellis Park reaches a boiling point, with both teams pushing through pure exhaustion. New Zealand strikes early in the first half of extra time, as Andrew Mertens calmly slots a long-range penalty kick through the uprights, putting the All Blacks ahead 12-9. The physical toll is immense, players stagger back to their positions with blooded faces and bruised limbs. With the match slipping away, François Pienaar gathers his team into a tight huddle. Pointing to the roaring crowd, he demands total defense and reminds them that they are playing for their destiny and their country. Inspired by their captain, the Springboks launch a relentless counter-attack. Minutes later, South Africa earns a vital penalty, and Joel Stransky steps up under unbelievable pressure to nail the kick, tying the match once again at 12-12. With only 7 minutes remaining on the clock, the Springboks execute a tactical masterpiece. The forward pack aggressively grinds out a central scrum deep inside New Zealand's territory. As the ball hooks back, scrum half Joost van der Westhuizen snaps a quick, crisp pass out to Joel Stransky. Positioned nearly 30 meters out, Stransky drops the ball to his right foot and sends a soaring drop goal straight through the center of the crossbar. Ellis Park erupts into absolute pandemonium as South Africa takes a 15-12 lead. New Zealand launches one last desperate assault in the final seconds, but the Springbok defense holds like a stone fortress. The final whistle blows, signaling that South Africa has defeated the mighty All Blacks to become the Rugby World Cup champions. As the final whistle echoes across Ellis Park, decades of racial division and political trauma dissolve into an unprecedented wave of national jubilation. On the pitch, Springbok players collapse to their knees in tears, embracing one another in emotional relief. Before accepting the trophy, the players gather in a tight huddle as winger Chester Williams leads the team in a heartfelt prayer, giving thanks for the victory and for emerging from the brutal match without severe injuries. Out on the field, a broadcast reporter approaches François Pienaar, asking how it felt to play with the incredible backing of the 63,000 fans inside the stadium. François looks directly into the camera and delivers a timeless response that resonates around the globe. "We didn't have the support of 63,000 South Africans today. We had the support of 43 million South Africans." President Mandela steps onto the presentation platform, beaming with immense pride while wearing his green number 6 jersey. As François steps up to receive the Golden Web Ellis Cup, Mandela places the trophy in his hands and softly tells him, "Thank you for what you have done for our country." François looks back at the leader who risked everything for unity and replies, "No, Mr. President, thank you for what you have done for our country." Outside the stadium, the victory triggers a massive, unified celebration that sweeps across every city and township in South Africa. Millions of citizens black and white pour into the streets, dancing, singing, and waving the nation's flag side by side. The green and gold Springbok jersey, once a bitter symbol of apartheid division, is proudly worn by citizens of every background. As President Mandela's motorcade slowly navigates through the ocean of roaring, joyful crowds in the streets of Johannesburg, his security detail expresses deep concern about the heavy traffic and potential security risks. Jason Shabalala and Captain Fader suggest quickly altering the motorcade route to a safer, less crowded path. Mandela, looking out at his people celebrating peacefully together, gently smiles and tells his security team that there is no hurry at all. He watches with deep satisfaction as white and black South Africans embrace in the streets, realizing that the impossible vision of a unified rainbow nation has finally begun to take root.